We are live.
We are got our water going.
Got water all over the floor.
I'm with one of the most jacked vets there is worldwide. The sexy Dr. Jeff Warber is with us today. And I wanted to do this. Oh, besides Serge hitting the camera and everything, I wanted to give these guys, hey, Mo, I think Jeff's more of a mess than Titan is. You got a towel?
Titan has to teach me how to drink water on a I didn't realize the bottle.
Your mouth was at.
Well, no, when I was squeezing the bottom as soon as I opened it.
Are you saying you're too strong?
I'm not like you. But,
Surge to the rescue. Thank you. You dropped some right down here.
Yeah, I got
You want to get that?
I'm good.
Okay, so what I thought would be awesome, they're asking if you're natty. If you're natty.
What's natty?
Natty is what these guys do. It's usually the very thin, small guys that ask if you're natty or not.
Oh, really?
And natty is, I don't know what does natty stand for?
natural.
Natural.
No, I'm definitely. If you're talking about steroids, I'm natural.
Well, I got a question for you because this is kind of funny that we lead off with something like this. The positive and negative. So I found it so crazy, mind blowing to me that we're in a field and we've created a lifestyle which allows us to sit at the table with the most elite in our business and other businesses, which is cool. But then I always question, do the other elites get the negativity? And so I was looking at Arnold, and it was his video of him lifting. Now it's Arnold Schwarzenegger lifting, and you get amateurs at all levels, even some pros that I believe are mentally amateurs, critiquing his form and saying it's bad. And I'm like, I'm looking around going, really, you would question that?
Right.
And so I noticed with you, you just did something, and we're going to show some video of this, a pup that you guys pulled out of the shelter, right?
Jackson Walker pulled out of the shelter, about 8 to 9 year old, maybe 10, out of the Downey shelter. And this, we'll shoot a video. It was the saddest dog I've ever seen. I mean,
I just saw the video for the first time.
Tumors. He had about almost 4 pounds of tumors hanging on his body. And nobody, who's going to,
Yeah.
the average person is not going to adopt that dog. And he was, as we term it, death row. He was going to be put to sleep, which fortunately, in fact, as a matter of fact, one of the other rescue groups that I work with, as soon as they saw Mason, the dog's name is Mason, in my office, he goes, I know that dog. He was in the Downey shelter. He goes, I wanted to pull him. And his boss at another rescue, not to mention names, said no, because it would be too tough, too much work to fix it.
So by me looking at this video, I'm an average Joe, so I don't know the medical and the tumors and the age of the dog. I'm going to assume he was on that too much trouble. But you guys did some tests on it. I'm assuming. What was the process for you going, I'm not giving up on this. I want to find out and see what I can do.
So what happened was when they pulled the dog, they brought it to me for a checkup. And I, of course, concerned. I know that the tumors were something called mast cell tumors that are very serious. And so the first thing I did was, let's evaluate the dog. Let's look at this dog without the tumors for just a minute. Let's see, has there been any spread of tumors to the liver, the lungs? Let's do a quick chest X-ray. Easy. Let's do a quick ultrasound. Everything looked great. All right, now.
So even though he had these tumors, it didn't spread into the organs at that point.
Correct.
Okay.
And that doesn't say they're not going to.
Right.
But at this point, we have to ask ourselves, is it even worth putting this poor dog through all this surgery if the outcome is just knock it out? Then we do a blood test, because to me, AIDS is not a disease. I would hate to think that I'm going to need something at some point in my life, and I'll be 70-something, 68 now,
Right.
I'm 70-something, and they go, Doc, you're in great shape for your age. You really are, but you're 70. We're not
replacing a hip. We're
Right,
not
right.
replacing a shoulder. There's just no point.
That's crazy to me. So bloods were good. And I said to the rescue, I said, look, Wags, this dog's name is Mason. I said, I think we can do this. I felt the masses. I felt they were fairly resectable. I could remove them. I give good margins. And let's give it a shot. Well, you're going to see what
And you'll
turned
see,
out.
you'll see that video go from that point, but I'm not going to jump forward yet to tell these guys just yet what happened. What I thought was interesting is that you and I talked before we went live today, and you got a lot of
hate mail
telling you to put the dog down, call it quits.
Right. Why did you put that dog through all that? You should have just put him to sleep. You should have. It's like, whoa. If this were your dog, if this was one of your kids.
See, I know what happens. And so it's kind of nice that you get to stick this to those people that kind of talked.
Right. You know, it's funny.
For me, I like that stuff.
I did you mentioned about how these amateurs, and it reminds me of the story. I had these two, I do a lot of tumor surgeries. And so I had these two dogs, and it was the weirdest thing. They had the exact same tumor in the exact same place. One dog was about 80 pounds. The other was a little Chihuahua. And the fact that they came in a day apart, and it was like they were talking to each other on the phone, saying, "Hey, buddy, I got this tumor.
I got tumor going in.
I want to go." So we're showing the tumors, and I'm in surprised how similar they were. The location was almost exactly the same, right on the right thigh. So I already gave the sedation to the first dog. The bigger dog, we're going to do that one first. And as I'm talking, he's now kind of anesthetized. He's got his tube. He's lying on the table, surgery table, ready to go. And I'm now saying, "You think this is bad?" And I bring in the second dog. My tech brings it to me. And as I'm talking, I set this little 3-4 pound Chihuahua on this 80-pound dog, right? And I'm sort of like petting and showing one. And these technicians, mind you, not veterinarians, they're vet techs. Maybe frustrated veterinarians, they couldn't make it to vet school. I don't know. But they write, how could you put that dog on top of the anesthetized dog? It's like, are you joking? That's like you carrying Titan on your shoulders.
Right.
I can't believe he sat on your shoulders. It was like this dog was huge. And that's what people pick on. They have to pick on something.
The littlest thing.
They have to let someone else know that I know a lot too. And when, in fact, you don't know anything.
So I love you're so removed. I know you personally are a health and fitness nut, but veterinarian is so removed from a guy doing form in a gym on workouts. And it's funny going from you were one of the most elite vets that I know from around the world, and then Arnold Schwarzenegger is one of these most elite. And you both get this hate, which is ironic. It's so weird to me that there's that common kind of person out there going, I know a bit of everything. And
I know more than you.
We talk about this Dunning-Kruger effect of the person that reads the one book and suddenly they know as much as you know.
Right.
And it's a frustrating thing because now you're going to see the video. And again, if I saw the first video, my heart would break.
Absolutely.
And I got some great friends, Mickey Rourke and Danny Hester. Danny Hester was the first Mr. Olympia physique. We always send dog videos together, but these are the type of videos we send,
right?
Because we're dog guys, and then we love to see the transformation of them being in the shelter or something, and then surviving and getting a good home.
The best.
And this video has that, and it's over 7 million views because of the fact that there's so many good dog people out there that sees the struggle and how the dog was, and then you didn't give up on it, and you come out the other side.
And
and this dog is happy now.
Oh my God. To see that, when I mentioned how, for me, we don't always get to see immediate results. And sometimes we don't get to see the results we hope. Medicine is not an exact science. I think it is. But, you can have a dose. I mention this all the time. You give the exact textbook dose to 2 dogs. One dog will do fine, and the other dog will either do nothing or be dangerous. And there's no way to predict it. You just got to go with what's recommended.
Writing this down. I have my reasons.
Okay, so when I see a dog where the transformation took place so quickly, within 10 days post-op and then a 3-week post-op, and you see this dog who, the very initial video, I look at again and again and again, it's just how sad he looked. His eyes, he just looked like a sad boy that was in this poor cage. Nobody wanted him. You could just tell he wanted the affection, the attention, but nobody would give it to him because these tumors were really gross. And now to see him chasing a ball, his little boy in the family, maybe 8, 9 years old, throwing a ball for this dog. He's chasing. That's what I do. Right
there. that makes it worthwhile.
Absolutely.
Okay, because I'm going to lead us into another discussion, which is ironic that it's such a we're on the same road, even though we are in two different fields. And that is that we just talked about, you can bring in two dogs, similar problems, similar things. You give them medication. And again, like anything, you can't confirm, hey, you're the vet. If I bring my dog to you, he has to be okay 100%. I already know common sense. That's not your job. Your job is to do the very best you can for the pup.
Right.
What it is what it is. And so you bring in two dogs. They both have the same thing. One dog makes it. One dog doesn't make it. For you, how do you relate that? Or how do you talk to people saying not every dog is the same, just like every person is not the same?
It's really tough. And what you said is what I sort of live by and survive by, because there are a lot of problems in the veterinary world right now. And sadly, and I don't know if we talked about this, whereas of all the medical professions, it used to be dentists and sometimes some people say psychiatrists had the highest suicide rates. Sadly,
I did not even know that.
Yes, sadly now, veterinarians. And this to me is such a shocker.
So you're saying the actual veterinarians, because of the fact of the stress of the job?
The stress of the job, we call compassion fatigue, we call it high student debt, we call it demanding.
Before you continue, I wrote this, that is the follow-up question. Holy sheesh. Wow, that was my follow-up question, and I'll continue.
No, and I look at is that, to me, compassion is not fatigue. It doesn't fatigue me, it doesn't tire me. Passion and compassion are what drives me.
But how do you continue it when you get this? Because there is a pound, or you're getting pound down with the negativity of the viewers going, I know that more than you, Doc. Put the dog down, let this dog live, pay attention to this dog, skip that, you're doing it wrong. That doesn't interfere, or because it does with some people.
We have to be really confident in what we know. One of the things that I've learned, and I'm in my 39th year, so to finish my 39 years in practice, plus the 4 years before that as a technician. So I've been in this business for a long time. Now you can have knowledge, but what I find is a big difference if you don't have experience. To go with the knowledge, you cannot be wise. Wisdom comes with experience. And so what I find is that these young doctors, they're smart, but if they, without the experience, they are going to be affected by these failures.
Will you read
more
a quote, Jeff?
than they should.
I don't know who says it, but he says, education gets you so far and experience finishes it.
Absolutely.
And it is the experience. And I feel in the health and fitness world, it is, you get so many people that read the book and they're great. They can dictate that book back to you. They have no clue what the experience of that really is.
And so when I feel that young doctors and medical doctors, veterinary doctors, they have to know that from the get-go, we will not cure everyone. Just can't. It's not real. And there has to be a reality check. And one of the two things that when things don't work out well, we introspect. We really do. It drives me nuts. I review everything I did. What could I have done differently? What should I have done differently? And as long as I don't make that same mistake again, if there was a mistake made, and none of us are perfect. Think about this. You get, I like to say this all the time. You go to school and you graduate with a 95% average. 95%. That's an A. Pretty much anybody's book, that's an A. But wait a second. What happened to the other 5%? Right? You didn't get those questions right. And you're still an A student.
You're still the best there is.
Right. So it's reality. And a lot of times it's your fault because you made a mistake, made a judgment call. A lot of what we do is judgments. We have to make a judgment call sometimes. Hopefully, with more experience, you're going to make the right judgment call. Sometimes it's not good. Or it might have been the right for that patient, but it didn't work for this patient. Nothing you can do about it. Do I lose sleep? Yeah, it bugs me. But to think that I'm going to have to, compassion fatigue is going to take me? Absolutely not. If anything, I'm going to drive even harder.
Passion fatigue.
Compassion fatigue.
Passion fatigue.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming that just means that
they're overly
the loss builds up, and then you finally just, I'm done.
Right. and coupled with long hours, and coupled with another thing that, because we were talking about how many experts there are, right? That every pet parent becomes an expert.
Right.
It's like I say, when these
I'm on 3 dogs. I know what to do.
Exactly. And I get this because, for example, we talked about the different vaccine scheduling and how it's changed over the years. And I'll talk to a breeder sometimes who's still doing the old 6, 8, and 10-week vaccines, which is not only not effective, it's potentially dangerous because it uses a mom's passive immunity way too fast. And I try to explain all these things we've learned over the years about the immune system and what's right and how it works, etc. And I do my best. I'm pretty good at explaining things. Listen here, my son, I've been doing this for 40 years. I think I know what I'm doing by now. And I said, yeah, that was maybe what it was 40 years ago, but it's not that way now. Every 5 years, when it comes to medicine, every 5 years, half of what we knew as gospel is now obsolete.
I love the fact that is so. I hate the fact that people don't evolve and get better with it.
I mean, think of your world, nutrition. How many times have you advocated something 20 years ago and you find out, maybe it wasn't the best thing?
It was a tricks 20 years ago. Do this, do that. And it goes back to just the most simple, basic stuff is the greatest stuff. But again, there's an understanding, like with lifting back in our, and again, you and I have both been in our field for over 40 years. And so it's experience over 40 years, besides the education part. And so it's nice to see there was a time that 20-year-old kid had to train harder than anybody else because that was the philosophy.
Right.
If I can out-train you, I'm going to be better than you. It has nothing to do with the other person. It has to do solely with me and how well I can recover.
Right.
And if I can't recover as good as the next guy, I can't train as good as the next guy. And so you learn those things. Like you guys in medicine, you guys learn that. But I want to jump back to the fatigue because social media pound down, it beats people. And it beats people if you allow it to.
Exactly.
And then that's one of the biggest things. So
one of the docs I heard of, I did not know personally, but I knew of, it was social media that really put her over the edge. And she took her life.
See, she's out there doing the best she possibly can and doing something good. I think a vet
was very good.
A vet's a cool kind of. I wanted to be a vet when I was very young. Then my dad said to me when I was young, and I'm glad he said it. He says, "You do understand there's going to be times you have to put dogs down." And I go, "I do not want to be a vet." And I saw you the first time I met you was over a decade ago, easily over a decade ago, if not more. And I saw you come out of the office and you're with a girl and she was crying and I knew, just put down a dog. And she's walking and I'm sitting there going, that's going to be me one day. And I just got to realize that. And you had compassion then, but you have that same compassion today. You never lost who you are. And I would think like most doctors, most medical doctors that I've met are very coarse.
Right.
They're done with that kind of compassion to it.
You never get used to it. I mean,
how have you been able to stay compassionate? How have you been able to stay? I want to. How do you stay this way? It's a crazy thing for me to see.
Because well, first of all, every case is an individual case, and I once early in my career, and it was the worst thing I ever did. I ended up putting a dog to sleep that I didn't think really needed to be put to sleep. Okay, and I told him, talk to the owner about this. And I was young. I was out maybe a year, and I knew that
they wanted to put him down.
They were convinced because they were moving. The dog wouldn't be happy with anybody else. Had a few minor problems, and she didn't want it to be with somebody else.
Right.
She wanted to be with that dog for sleep. So I don't know what to do.
I never thought that would.
Yeah.
I would think that would be the vet's, and I'm wrong. Yeah. It would not. It's not the vet's call.
Right. It's their dog. Right? They could do anyway. So I then went into it and told her how it's not a pretty sight to watch a dog, which by the way is not true. But I wanted to try to dissuade her from being there.
Right.
My plan was in my brain, I'll take the dog to the back, and I will get a dog with one of the rescues I work with. We will rehome this dog in no time. Right. And then she goes, no, I want to be with it. even if it jerks and whatever it happens.
Right.
I just want to be there because I want her last memories to be with me. Oh my God, I just talked myself into a hole on that one. And I did. And if I tell you, you talk about things that you regret and things that stay with you, that stayed with me
Still to this day.
day.
I can
And-
see that you, in your eyes, I can see that you see this, that whole moment.
And now, if I don't think it's the right thing to do, I will say, I don't care. It's not the money. I'll say, you know what? It's not right. You need to take something else because I won't put this dog to sleep.
I love that. I love it.
And-
Go somewhere else.
Yeah, go somewhere else. If you get someone else to do it, be my guest. It's not going to be me. Because this dog is salvageable. I can get a home for this dog, a nice home. Anyway, so those are things that stick with you, but you need to learn from those experiences. And I think that I don't think the young doctors of today have gotten enough schooling, education to know when going into this business that this is what you're going to encounter. And you need to be prepared for this.
I guess looking at it from this side, that is one of the biggest things because they're bringing you in. The pup gets sick at times, and that's the only time he really sees you is maybe for a little checkup, and they're sick.
Right.
And so it's that final stage of transitioning from it's time to go in the most comfortable way possible.
You know, it's also one of the things you mentioned that I think is a difference. When I was in school, I do a lot of surgery. I do a lot of soft tissue surgery, more than many GPs. And I don't mind, I love it. One of the things I was thinking about doing was doing residency in surgery, become a veterinary surgeon, board certified veterinary surgeon. And I realized that I love the relationships that I develop with my patients and my clients. And that's what drives me. And that's how when I have something and I have that compassion, it's because I'm just not a regular guy for them. I'm just their doctor. I've been at family functions. I've been at weddings, right? And I'm sitting at a table with other families, and they go, "So how do you know the bride and the groom?"
I'm the vet.
I'm their vet. Their dentist isn't there. Their doctor's not there. But
Family doctor is not, but the vet.
The vet is there. And,
I love dog people.
And so to me, that's what keeps me going, and I love it. To me, it's not work. I haven't missed very much.
Yeah.
I've yet to work a day in my life, and
I love this.
and that's how I would like to see more instead of this compassion fatigue and these young veterinarians not being able to handle the challenges and the hours and the high student debt, and figure out a way to make it work for you.
So, stepping out of the veterinarian and me stepping out of the fitness world, how would you suggest people not to get the fatigue, especially when you think that counselors was one of the bigger suicide, and they're listening to people's problems and trying to help solve them. You are trying to help people with their loved fur babies, and then I'm trying to get them into shape to love themselves. And so we all get this, at least I get this fatigue of the non-believers or lifting doesn't really change you that much, where I'm like, oh my gosh, it does so much for us.
Mm-hmm.
So how would you recommend to not let social media knock you down?
Mm-hmm.
Is my first question. And then I would like you to go into the fact of, we kind of hit on it, but the difference between two of the same dogs, same issues, same things, medication doesn't work the same for two dogs. Maybe the exercise doesn't work the same for the two dogs. Maybe the food doesn't even work for the same for the two dogs. So I'd like to go into the first part about, is there any kind of suggestion you give them about fatigue? Basically your work fatigue or social media fatigue?
I think that and this goes, I think, true with any profession, any in life. When you experience a disappointment, okay, what causes that disappointment? It's usually an expectation. You had a certain expectation about something, and it didn't work out that way. Now you're disappointed. So when an expectation is based on a non-reality, you're looking for trouble. So I think the important thing to do is, when you're going to get into anything in life, have certain realistic expectations. And then if something doesn't work out, you're prepared for it, because you know it's not always going to work out. You start with that premise. When it does work out, two things. Number one, when it does work out, first of all, you're even more thrilled, which is why I'm always so thrilled, because most of the time things work out. And it makes me happy as can be. That's what I'm saying. That compassion is what drives me. It's not negative. It doesn't have a deleterious effect on my life or my persona. It actually says, this is great. And if it doesn't work, and there are going to be cases it doesn't work. And, so that's, I think.
I have to hold you for a second, because your point of view, and I did an interview that just went out today on Generation Iron. And for all of you, go watch it. I was sitting down with Phil Heath, who's one of the greatest legends in the bodybuilding world, with 8 Mr. Olympias, I think it is. True legend. And his point of view, and it's funny when we all meet, regardless of what jobs we do, at the top here, he said, when you're looking for expectations from others or credibility, or them to say, good job, doctor, that's not true. I guess you were saying, like, don't look for that expectation from those people.
Right.
Don't look for that praise from them, because you're going to get both sides. You're going to get the negative and you're going to get the positive. Don't let that do it. It has to come from you.
Absolutely. 100%.
And I love that. And I love that you said that now. And I love that he said that on today's podcast. Yeah. So it goes back to those elites and the guys at the pinnacle that made it there have an understanding that they know what they do is love for what they do, like you do. And it doesn't matter if they get negative or positive, you still do what you do.
Right. I mean, is it nice to get
positive? Of course it's nice. Of course.
And but no, I have to be satisfied within myself of what I did.
Because if you listen to all the hate that you got, going, no, put the dog down. Hey, don't do this. It's a waste of time. You're being cruel now by doing the surgery.
Right.
That's a lot of pressure for you to go. First of all, I believe in myself. I believe in what I do for a living. And you didn't get to hear because you read one book.
Right.
So you're like, no. And then you do it. And I think it's so cool for the other half of the people to see the story. And that's why it went viral.
Mm-hmm. I hope so. Yeah.
It didn't go viral because it's, hey, this dog. It's because they could see he was so far gone. And you're like, no, he's not.
Right.
He is savable. You guys are visually looking at something. You don't know enough to understand this dog can be saved. And we did the research on it. Because I always talk about, do your blood work.
Right.
Regardless of what you look like.
Right.
Do your blood work. You find out what's going on inside. Then we can fix it if there's an issue.
Right.
And you did that, and you stayed true to who you are.
No, and obviously worked out great. You're gonna look at these pictures of Mason, you go, wow, he's amazing.
You guys might get all teary-eyed.
Yeah,
like
no,
I
really,
did. So
absolutely. And then, but as far as your other point, and about
my other point, just so you guys remember this, I always talk about this, that no two individuals are the same. You can't do the same. Vitamins don't work for each other. The same food doesn't work for each other. The same workouts don't work for each other. So with what you do, how do you, again, what are your steps to find out?
By doing, so and that's the thing. And understanding, always have a plan B. I think in life, it's always good to have a plan B, because plan A might not work out all the time. So if I have, for example, I'm using a medication, this is the medication I should be using, and this dog did great on it. In fact, most of the dogs do great on it. So I'm hoping this will just be another one of those dogs. All of a sudden, no response or bad response. So I have to have an alternative. I have to have a plan B, whether it's another test. Maybe I was basing it on thinking that the problem this dog had, because it looked like the other dog's problem, was the same problem. And then, as you just said, maybe you take a test, you find out, oh, no wonder why that medicine didn't work. That's not the problem. It looks like it, but it's not. This is actually an immune-mediated problem. This is actually a fungal problem, not a bacterial infection or a fungal infection, whatever the case may be. So we have to be prepared to look at our results, pat ourselves on the back when it works, but also where to go. Don't wait until it's a problem. In your mind, try to already have a plan B ready to go, just in case.
I love that, because when I try to talk to these guys, I'll always start slow, and I'll always go, but listen, we have so many tools in our belt. I mean, you probably have the same way with, well, we can do a basic medication, we can go heavier, we can go surgery, you probably have your protocol of things that you can do.
Right.
With health and fitness or changing a body, I start with the most basic, because we can always go more. But if we jump to the very end, then we're out of options.
Right.
And so I like the fact that it's a similar, but the first thing you said is you start,
Right.
you do something.
Right.
And that's the way to find out.
You know, the couple of rules that I live by, and I would imagine in life also, they're the same. First of all, I love the KISS rule. Keep it simple, stupid. Okay. Another one is, can I see these?
Is that an old
animals
school
coming-
thing? Because I
think so.
believe the same thing.
Oh, wait, yeah.
The kids today don't say
No,
that.
they don't, right?
I want to go everything. Give me everything. It's like, keep it simple.
Yeah, keep it simple. And the next thing, you know, is that, and I see this a lot of times. I'll see a dog coming in from, we just call it elsewhere animal hospital, and they're doing all these tests. I'm saying, whoa, what are you doing? Why they do that? That's if it looks like a duck, walks like a duck, quacks like a duck, it's probably a duck. So that's where you should start.
Right.
And this is what I love the most. You can be here in Southern California, you can get it. If you're running along the beach in Malibu, California, and you hear hoofbeats chasing you from behind, what do you think? Horses or zebras?
Okay.
Right.
Right.
So why are you looking for the zebra? You're dog
Right.
doctor.
Right.
What are you testing for that? You will maybe once in your lifetime, in a 40-year career, you might see that disease you're
Right.
tested for.
Right.
Go with the obvious first.
Right.
And most of the time, that's what it's going to be. And that's the wisdom, I think. You know, people think, and I am a GP as GP as they come. And yet people have come to me and they've said, we heard you're the best diagnostician. I'm thinking to myself, I'm not such a great guy. I'm just common sense. There's academic medicine and there's practical medicine. I'm the king of practical medicine.
Did you find that quote?
No, but it's a Michael Hearn quote.
Yes, Michael. I'll take
Michael,
that.
take it.
But it was the other one you just said right now. Is that education is what you use after you leave school, or it's a sense of school gets you the basics,
right?
But it's that experience that does it. But they always talk about that. It's like you can read only so much. You got to implement it in, and you got to apply it,
right?
And then.
And the more you apply it, and it opens a lot of doors for you too.
And you really fully understand what
Yeah.
you read.
Yeah.
And I hate the fact that we get so many people in your field and in my field that read a book and then suddenly the Dunning-Kruger effect, that they know more than the expert without any experience.
My buddy, you may know him from the work I wrote, Chance White. He's in Austin, Texas, and he calls me with the problem with his dog. And they wanted to put this dog. The dog was coughing and wheezing. Older dog, 13-year-old little Chihuahua, and they thought maybe it's time for him to sleep. And I thought that's pretty quick. Whoa. What about the heart? Let's test things first. And they realized that the heart. They finally took it to a cardiologist. They did an an echocardiogram. Heart was actually pretty good. So they think it's a primary pulmonary problem, lung problem. So they're doing all sorts of stuff. They want to put it on, and I said, well, if we're dealing with an old dog and it has some sort of pulmonary problem and it's not heart, it could be like an allergy, it could be an irritation, it could be an inflammation. I try to go with steroids, just a moderate dose of steroids. Sure enough, this dog literally is out of the hospital without needing extra oxygen from an oxygen cage in 2 days.
It was just.
And this doctor wanted to think about euthanasia.
Again, experience comes into play, trying different things, and then it's cool that somebody from Texas is calling you going,
Oh yeah,
I like my vet, but I'm going to go to the guy that I really trust. I love the fact that it was so similar to what the fitness world is working with right now, our discussion. And I know our discussion is about animals and dogs and the ability for you to continue to do what you do, regardless of the negativity that you get. Not saying you get a lot of negativity. So just understand that. Go follow Dr. Jeff Warber, and he's on my pages everywhere. And he's got the blue check mark, so you know it's him. But
finally,
it's an interesting thing where you can take two fields completely different, and there's similarities all the way through it, from two people not being able to do the same diet, to two people not doing the same workout, to two dogs probably not doing the same exercise. I know, like, big dogs don't need as much exercise as the Huskies. Or,
I remember a couple of years ago, you and I talked about this, and I find it was also very fascinating. It relates to this tremendously. It was said that diet that was out, they were trying to you had the 3 or 4 athletes that were doing the vegetable diet.
You called me on
vegan,
this, yeah.
All right, and basically poo-pooing meat,
Right.
protein in any way, shape, or form. And you even said that could be good for the right person, but there are people out there that may not do well on that diet. And when you look at all the fad diets that have gone in for heart health, for example, including the Pritikin diet way back, and there were people that dropped dead from that diet.
And himself,
So,
it's an amazing thing that everybody's always looking for the trick,
right.
The one little catch, the one little thing, and it comes down to everybody's different. Everybody deals with the positive, negative. Everybody loves the underdog story, and I think that's one of the biggest things that you guys got to see today is the underdog story with this dog, who again, right? What a transformation! And most of the time, I cannot watch those videos. And Mickey Rourke sends me these videos all the time, and I'm like, I'm not going to be able to do this tonight. I can't. They're so emotional for me. But I think it's incredible that you can still do it with such a smile, the way you do it. Yes, Mona.
Something?
Yes.
Everybody thinks now because they see you guys doing, talks together and podcasts, they're like you're getting special treatment from Dr. Warber. But
they all get special
I
treatment.
have news for you. You're not the one that's getting the special treatment only. Because when I went to the office, this guy is literally treating everybody the same. It's mind blowing. I've seen many times with customers, and it's just so amazing to see the same attitude. This, like, just your body language is not different when you talk to Mike or that somebody just walked in. And I love that about you. And one more thing. I don't know if all this facility do it, all the vets, but you guys take in older dogs to actually bait them and, groom them.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't do that, the groomers anymore, because they don't want to deal with an old dog.
Right.
And I love that about the facility as
Yeah,
well.
so
just
if
two
you guys
points,
didn't hear
yeah.
that, the 2 points is that I get special treatment because I do a lot of collaborations. They all do, and that's one of the biggest things when I'm at the office or Mona's at the office with the dogs. He's this way with everybody, and I've sent everybody that I know over there to his facility because I know what each person will get with the staff and with him. So it's a cool thing to see that.
Well, plus, but thing is, like you said, is that you working out. It's not a job,
right?
What I do is not a job. I never looked at it as a job, and it brings me so much joy. So why wouldn't you do something
that you really
love doing, and except for for you naysayers, right? The feedback. It's like my wife always says, Jeff, of course you love going to work because they all love you. And even my patients, so many people will say that I can't believe it that he hates other vets, usually the dog, and my patients.
What he's saying now is I can actually verify it. Bunny, my baby girl, my first adult dog, was very testy, and his first visit with Bunny, he got down with Bunny and Teddy, and you guys all know Bunny and Teddy, and he got down there, and Bunny went right at, and it was just like that movie. I'm running, and she was aggressive, and she gets right to him, and she's like, "Okay, I love you." So, but he gets right down. You get right down to them. The things you tell us not to do. You're so schooled in this that you set yourself up in a correct way to be able to do what the amateur should do.
But again,
what the amateur should do.
And I can read dogs pretty well. And when I think of the number of years of doing this, and the number of times
you really are the dog whisperer.
It's very few relation. I've got nailed before, and I say this: if any veterinarian who says they've never been bitten by a dog, they are not really interacting with that dog. There's no way, because dogs are unpredictable. You learn after years what to look for, signs. But I've been nailed.
You were great with my girls, and they were testing.
Fortunately, most of them I joke I get more tongue than anybody I know. But
going to work and getting tongue all day long.
They lick me right in the face. But that's it's good. But there are those veterinarians, these young vets that are taught, oh my God, don't
control your dog, don't.
And they won't. They tell to put an imaginary bubble around their heads and don't get any closer to the dog than that bubble. I'm thinking to myself, how can you love on an animal if you're wearing a bubble around your face? You get in there, get the hugs, get the kisses.
People ask me, they go, why do you still lift the way you do that kind of scrappy fight every single day? And it's because I freaking love it.
That's right.
I freaking love it.
And that's,
And going to the gym and not being me or scrapping. Even today, we had a young little 20-year-old in there, and it was like rep for rep. I'm like, let's go, youngster. And it's just so fun for me. But like you said, we don't work. We have fun doing our lives. Let's see if we got a couple of questions here, Jeffrey.
Yeah.
If we got anything here, and if you guys got any questions as well.
My dog is a rescue. How do I treat clinging issues?
Ooh, this is
Cleaning what?
great. Clinging.
Oh, clinging.
Yeah.
So what happens is, it's a tough one because when you have these rescue dogs, they've been deprived of that interaction. So all of a sudden you see this dog and there's a connection and you bring it home and you are crazy about the dog and the dog is now crazy about you. And they start becoming extremely used to that. And it's almost like codependency. So you want to reward the behavior when they're not always so clingy. And so, for example, dog comes up to you, it wants to be picked up, or it wants to jump up next to you. So you can either just get up and walk away, or dog can sit there with his head, on your lap, like, okay, pick me up, and just kind of ignore it. But when you see the dog,
Boy, that's tough for us
I
dog
know,
owners
I know.
to do, though.
But when you see the dog sitting on his bed,
Yeah.
chewing its own toy, then you go over to him and say, "Good girl, good boy,"
Support.
and give a little treat. So you want to positively reinforce the behaviors that are not always dependent on you, like we did when you remember that.
So I'll give the a scenario that I got a lecture from this man. I got yelled at, and the reason why is because I had a pup, Elvis, right there. That's Elvis. And when I got Elvis, I sheltered him because my schedule was not productive for dogs. And I thought because I had Bunny and Teddy and he was playing with them and it was in the house and I had a great yard and they could play all day, that I was a good dog owner. I didn't realize, because I kept him there for the first couple of years, didn't take him to parks, didn't interact him with other dogs, didn't do any of this other stuff, I set him up to fail, and I was a bad dog owner. And you told me, you go, no, when they're young like that, you got to interact with other dogs.
Right. In other words, the world can't revolve around just you and the dog. The dog has to become, as we call it, socializing, and be comfortable. And not only that, be comfortable in your environment, the home environment, without you needing to be there. And it's not easy, especially. I mean, it's great that you have adopted a dog, and it's great that you have this bond that you formed. And the dog loves you, and you love the dog, obviously. But there has to be times where the dog can't always get you when they want you.
And I really realized with Elvis how much I loved Elvis, but what I did wrong as a dog owner. And then you're like, wait a minute, I thought a dog owner, all he has to do is feed the dog and have him in a house.
Yeah,
that's your job. And it's like, that's not even close to the job.
Right.
And so it took me as a young boy to understand that. And
well, there's a school out there. And I have many pets. We have 10. And I joke that if they made a bed bigger than the California King, I could get more. And I have all 5 of my dogs usually sleeping on the bed, and they're veterinarians and need veterinary behaviors. I said, oh no, you should never have your dog sleep on the bed with you. To me, who needs a blanket when you have all that cuddliness, right? But I disagree, and that's what, as they say, that those opinions, that's what makes horse racing.
right.
But there is a school of thought that you're making the dog too comfortable, and you have to set boundaries. And one of those boundaries is a dog gets to sleep in his bed, his or her bed, or his or her crate, and maybe that would have eliminated some of this congeniality and the closeness. But for me, it's worth it to have that dog feel close enough to me, and yet you can set boundaries in other ways.
Yeah,
My
I
dogs,
like that you got that approach, because I would I wish I took Elvis more to the parks and got him involved, because I am like you. Those dogs are on the bed
course.
with me
As they
and
should be.
playing and rough housing and all
God,
that
that's the
stuff.
best.
Great question though. Really good question. Thanks for bringing up that pain of me getting yelled at. Really appreciate that. Let's go to the next one.
All right, from Mary. My Seymour was diagnosed with meningomyelitis and is now paraplegic. Besides a wheelchair, do you have any advice to keep him happy and as healthy as possible?
Well, I wonder if any surgery was done. If there was surgery done, then it might have relieved some of the pressure. Now, with something like that, also, when you see the letters itis at the end of a long term, that's inflammation of the meninges. So meningitis. And so the thing is, culturing, CSF tap, maybe even a CT or an MRI. But if there's a lesion, that's a tumor, then there's not much you can do. But if I knew that we're not dealing with an infection, either a fungal infection or a bacterial infection, and I would also mention that I would consider a course of steroids and see if we can decrease the inflammation. And that may have been done already. And now, interestingly, we talk about the young versus the
Let
old.
me stop for 1 second. So, Mary, if you're listening to this, which I hope you are, make sure to respond to some of these statements that he's making right now. If some of this stuff was already done, okay?
And I have been a fan, again, old timer, of the corticosteroids. There are also something called NSAIDs, non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs. Things like naproxen and ibuprofen, right? Aspirin. Those are NSAIDs. And a lot of the younger neurologists now are advocating the use of the NSAIDs. And I have to tell you, I talked to some veterinary surgeons that I've known also, part of the older school, and we still feel that steroids for some of these things are a better way to go. So I would talk to your vet, try both. Fortunately, you have a dog. I imagine it's a small enough dog. It's doing the wheelchair.
It is not a small dog.
Oh.
I actually know Mary,
Okay.
and it is a pit or a
Really?
Rottweiler.
Wow. Getting
It's
those
a
big
pit,
dogs
yeah.
into the that's tough.
Yeah.
Because that's a heavy dog to put into the wheelchair. You got to put the legs in those stirrups, and I applaud you for doing that. That's tough to do. And also, I had a dog patient that was a dachshund who had a disc disease, which is much more common in dachshunds.
Common dachshunds.
All right, paralyzed, had the surgery. Surgery they thought went well, but it didn't work. There's a perfect example. Board certified surgeon did everything right. And the problem is the dog didn't read the book. So so it didn't do well. Had it on the wheelchair, the canine cart. 2 years later, the owner noticed that the dog's, even though it's in the cart, its back legs are starting to almost paddle. P.S. Another 6 months later, cart's in the garage, dog is walking again.
Holy sheesh! So it was just the inflammation
Just
at
it
that
took
point.
that much time.
Wow!
It was damaged from obviously
Right.
the initial disc shooting up into the cord.
Right.
The cord
Which
did not
happens a
look
lot with
disrupted.
dachshunds.
Right. The cord did not look disrupted. The surgeon thought the outcome would be better than it was, and yet it didn't happen. But it did happen.
It didn't happen at
years
time.
later.
I freaking love that. Go for it, Jeffrey.
He had a spinal tap, and he used to take prednisone
Okay.
and gabapentin. Now he doesn't require it. His legs switch tight slightly at night, but not much.
Yeah.
He weighs 69 pounds.
Oh yeah, it's a big dog. So in a case like that, whatever the inflammation of the disease was, if it caused permanent damage to, and we call that a neuropathy, to the spinal cord or the meninges around the spinal cord, then it might be, this is unfortunately just what we have to deal with.
All right, we got another one right here. Go for it, Jeffrey.
Do the ongoing global warming heat waves affect dogs' mortality and life expectancy?
That's a good question that you and I have not done research in that area to come up with an answer. I would tell you that anytime a climate change happens, however, gradually, dogs, just like people, seem to adapt better than if it's just like that big storm or that blizzard that happened in upstate New York, in Buffalo, that killed countless amount of people. When we're not prepared for it, so whatever changes that need to be made in lifestyle are may not handle these abrupt changes. But when things are gradual, they usually can adapt. Maybe
I assume that, I don't know about you, but I think animals adapt a lot better than
they probably do.
humans
Absolutely.
right?
Well, because they are in their natural environments, they are more exposed to unexplained phenomena. And what I really find interesting, I get a lot of calls during storm rainy season that my dog's acting weird, and they didn't change anything, and everything is the food's everything's the same, but it's ADR ain't doing right, something's wrong. And oftentimes I will hear a news report a day or two earlier saying that come Tuesday or Wednesday we're expecting that big storm. All right, now we don't sense it. If the news didn't tell us, that weather lady didn't tell us that we're going to have a storm coming, we would not know. But dogs know.
It's a crazy thing, and that probably probably so much more than I. It's the coolest thing to have people like we have a friend Drew, big time influencer, but he has a heart pacer, and the dog can sense his sugar drop 15 minutes before he even knows.
Right.
Before the even the heart monitor knows. It's the coolest thing to hear that, or like dogs can pick up earthquakes before registration of the
seismic graph.
Yeah, it's like wow.
Well, what happens is with the normally what happens when we have storms coming, that cold front's coming in, we have a drop in barometric pressure, something that we don't sense, but dogs can sense that drop. So they start. So let's go backwards. So they felt something. They didn't know what it was, but they felt something. Okay, and then a couple of days later it starts storming. And then oftentimes with rain and storms comes thunder and lightning. That's what dogs don't like. So what happens is they make that association. So the next time they feel that drop in barometric pressure, I felt that last time. Now they're already planning 2 to 3 days in advance, expecting and fearing the thunder and lightning.
Then this takes me into another thing that's bizarre. For you dog owners, I never knew this. I was always told a house where your energy is good is good for the dogs. They don't, because a happy house is a happy dog, they kind of say. But I was listening to some
like happy wife, happy life.
Yeah, but I was listening to these guys, and they were talking about the span of the dog's life is not so much about the inside of the house, but a lot of it is what you're bringing into the house. And so stay with me on this. It's something like when I come into the house and I meet the dogs, I'm now happy because I see the dogs, but I'm taking this anger or whatever I had from outside, and I'm coming through the front door. They can sense that on what happened.
Yeah.
And I was watching about, because I was trying to do a lot of studying on why my dogs were living so long. I'm like, this is great.
Pizza.
Pizza. And we're gonna finish off on food. But the guys that were talking about this were talking about it's that energy that you got to when you come through the front door. Make sure you get rid of whatever that was the day is. If you got that anxiety from the day, don't give it to the dogs when you first meet them and go, okay, now I'm better.
Right.
And that was an interesting statement that they can pick up on a sense, and you're like, no, they can't. They don't know what I did for the last 2 hours.
They can pick up on motion. And you've heard stories about animals knowing that someone's mom or dad are on the way home from work, and they don't know it when they turn into the driveway. They know when they leave work.
Is that the craziest thing?
It's the craziest.
I know we sound like it's weird, but it's like I know Mo is on her way home because they'll run through the house because they know she's turned at the end of the street or from the. It's the coolest thing. Now I do want to go into one thing. Everybody always talks about food, and I think when it comes to dogs, just like anybody, different foods for different dogs. But what is your go-to? What is your number one? Hey, try this type of food. Try this kind of diet.
So, and it's interesting. It's a great question. People ask me all the time, what's the best food? There is no best food because as we know, and as you know, as your nutritional studies, which I know you've done a lot of, and you're working out, that what's good for this one may not be good for that one, may not be good for that one. So I'm of the feeling that there are a lot of best out there. There's no such thing as the best food. There are a lot of best ones. There are a lot of good foods. first of all, regardless of the list of ingredients and how well it was made, what's the most important thing? Dogs got to eat it.
Gotta eat.
If they don't like it, who cares? If it's,
Right.
They don't like it.
I boil my chicken for my dog, he does it, but he doesn't eat
Don't
it.
like, right. He doesn't like chicken. All right. Next up would be stool quality, energy, coat, nice shiny coat, and of course make sure there's no allergens. And every dog is different. Now I love this line. So the two most common protein allergens for dogs are chicken and beef. And I mentioned that to an owner whose dog is having a lot of skin problems, chewing their front feet, ears, which is often the signs of food allergy. They go, no, Doc, I get the best organically grown chicken. It can't be that. I said, wait a second, time out here. Chicken is chicken is chicken. I don't care whether it's the best chicken on the
Thank you for
planet
saying that.
or whether it's McNuggets, right?
Right.
It's chicken. And if you're allergic to that protein, your dog's not going to do well. So if you want to spend the money and get higher quality ingredients, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Right.
If your dog's on something now and he's got energy and he loves the food and he's got good solid stools and he's behaviorally okay, his coat is great, then why are you looking to change? I wouldn't change. And if you're looking for something new, then you want to look for certain. Also, grain free.
Okay.
Don't get tied into the grain free. Whatever it was that or is that affects people, and I would imagine that there are some grains that are good for people. So there are still grains that are good for dogs, and the whole thing with the cardiomyopathy and these changes that we've seen in dogs that are eating grain-free diets may not be the smartest thing for the dog. We have to stop anthropomorphizing. Anthropomorphizing is we take our values and we project them onto your pets.
I see that with parents and their
Yeah,
kids,
oh, sure. So it's
which
not
breaks
the
my
same.
heart.
Yeah, right.
Okay, so some backstory on me too on the feeding is that I noticed one big thing is Teddy, my girl, lived till she was 19.
Amazing.
She was
Amazing.
around 80 pounds at the end there. And so she was an oversized Chow Ridgeback mix. But she lived a long, long life. And I noticed at the end, it was about her eating more than anything else.
Right.
It wasn't, hey, make sure she eats this dog food or that dog food. It was just making sure she was eating.
Absolutely.
And she kept her temper and I mean, obviously she lived until a great,
That's a very ripe age.
and it reminds me of George Burns. And I know they're not going to like this.
About the smoking?
Just-
Cigars?
I love George Burns, even though he didn't live my lifestyle. I love it because it wakes people up. And I was talking to a client that was over here today, and Pele just passed.
Right.
Pele
Me
was
too.
a huge idol of mine because of what he did at the time he did it, and also the only guy that was a 3-time champ. But the point was, he died at 82, right? And this guy's father is 83, and he made a point, and I just couldn't even comprehend this point. His point was, Pele, an extreme athlete, healthy as can be, lived till 82, and my dad is older than that and never did any sports. And I'm just sitting there, and I'm just like, what's your point?
Yeah.
He goes, that's an athlete that couldn't live as long as my dad. I go, you can't compare two humans,
Right.
because then on the other side, I got George Burns smoking cigarettes, drinking alcohol until he's 100.
Right.
So how do you compare that to which is sad, a 26-year-old pro football player just passed away.
Right.
And it's like, you can't compare humans. You can't compare.
It's
It's a weird,
oh, absolutely.
to me.
And I think a lot of that to do is genetics.
Of course.
And sometimes you get lucky and you were given what we're given genetically. Okay. Now we can do the best we can with it by staying in shape, eating right, exercising, or you can abuse what you got. And though you're genetically programmed to make it to 95, but because of your lifestyle, you only hit 80. You don't know. I always say that much of my shape is genetics, I think. But to say that I don't work at it, I work at it all the time.
Can
And
you say
that's
that
what I eat?
you can do the best you can, like these marathon runners that die at 35 years old.
Right.
Life isn't fair. At the end of the day, it's
Right.
not fair. And you can get a dog that lives a year and passes, and you get a dog that lives 19 years. And at the end, I was just feeding food to keep. It's the George Burns effect. Do the
Right.
very best you can for
Right.
what you have,
Right.
and assume that if you try to enhance that dog, make it run, eat it the best possibly you can, try to teach it the best, just like us humans, work out, take our genetics and try to push it as best we can.
Right. Right.
Knowing not tomorrow's promised.
And I say that if you have some options, you're trying to put your dog on something, yes, obviously, just with us, higher quality foods. I mean, I don't eat. I would be shocked if you did, but I haven't eaten fast food in 30 years. I don't want to eat that stuff, crap. So, I think we can do that for our dogs too. Look for something that is higher quality, but the bottom line is make sure they like it, make sure this coat's good, make sure and also when you transition from one food to another, if you are having an issue with food and you really want, make sure you do it gradually. Because if you stop food A, good food A, and you go to better food B, they can get diarrhea. And you say, wow, that food's not good. No, it has nothing to do with the food. It has to do with the fact that you switch too fast. So you want to gradually introduce the next food.
And that's the same as people. People like, I'll give them bread or something. And they're like, oh, 2 days on bread, it's terrible. I'm bloated. It's like, let your body get used to it. You're fine. And yeah, it's a lot of that. It's the similarities is amazing.
Right.
Just go slow, move slowly through this.
Absolutely. And I think that I think the basic premise, and I'll give you, we talk about being in shape versus being out of shape. This is a statistic I kind of like to share, especially with some of my clients that, well, I would say overweight or obese, but I would just say need to lose a few. And that is 75% of dogs who are overweight or obese belong to owners with themselves.
Ooh.
So we're talking lifestyle here.
Right.
And interestingly and sadly, and this comes up in the veterinary world a lot, veterinarians are afraid to talk about an obese pet in front of an owner who clearly is obese. And I say, no, that shouldn't bother you at all. If anything, that you may drive that client into a better lifestyle and better eating habits, knowing that their dog is overweight. And I share that statistic with the owner.
Yeah,
I said, and I'll so far say, getting out and spending an extra 15, 20 minutes of exercise for Bowser, who can lose 10 pounds, it'd be good for you too.
I love that you do that.
And
Oh my gosh. Any more questions, Jeffrey?
Yeah, bouncing back off the food.
Yeah.
Dog Maple's recently developed a reaction to beef. When she gets it, she gets a bad rash. Normally I cut it, but she loves it. Is it normal for a dog to develop a reaction to food later in life? And does that mean bye to beef forever? Or is there a way to introduce it back?
so what I would do is, first of all, adult onset allergies, very common. It happens.
Same with people.
We'll start with people. I was allergic when I was a kid. I had tested positive to most animals and certain foods. And now I have no allergies. So I outgrew them. Or was dumb enough to have so many animals and getting that low dose every day, my body finally built up resistance, like getting allergy shots. But if the dog likes beef, again, the two biggest culprits protein-wise are going to be chicken and beef. Some say that turkey's related enough to chicken, but I've got a lot of dogs with duck or turkey are fine. They're not with chicken. Beef, alternatives, bison, okay, venison are good choices. Salmon, rabbit, kangaroo. So if the dog really likes beef, I would try some of the other anagenically dissimilar but very similar in taste and substance, like bison or venison, and see if that works.
I feel as good as a dog owner when I give them salmon.
Oh, salmon's
I
great.
just think the oils and everything.
All great.
And they love
Omega-3
it.
fatty
Right.
acids, it's great. Yeah.
And I know Ryan too, and his pup goes with him and is at the gym with him. So and
That's
he
good.
looks great, and his pup looks great. So
That's
again,
good.
I love that all my Titan crew dog owners are here and asking these questions again. You're getting one of the greatest vets in the world here today.
That I don't know about, but at least experience.
Jeffrey, any final
Do you
questions?
suggest cooking it? Cooking?
It's a great question. Thank you so much. So here's I like sushi, but I wouldn't go to a market, buy a piece of tuna raw and eat it. We call sushi grade. And when it comes to raw meats, there are bacteria in the meat. You have the big four: E. coli, Listeria, Campylobacter, and Salmonella. And cooking or raw meat that's not cured properly should be put through some kind of process to kill off the bad bacteria, whether it's freeze dried, whether it's flash freeze, whether it's HPP, high pressure pasteurization. There are some ways to do it. Now, having said that, there are some dogs out there that can take that ground beef right out of the thing, not cook it, give it to them, and the dogs do fine. So their gut flora, right, is able to handle that raw meat. But there's no test that I know of other than trying it and see how they do. Or trying it, and if they get sick with salmonella, then not meat is not probably the best meat to feed them. So I'm not against raw meat. I'm against raw meat that hasn't been gone through some process to minimize or eliminate the bad bacteria.
That's as much as we in the health and fitness world hear about new fad diets. Man, do I hear about fads for dogs. And it is constant. Oh, no, you got to stay with a raw diet, uncooked foods, because that's how they ate.
In the wild.
5,000 years ago. And they haven't adapted and changed like we have.
And that's not true. The truth is, domestication of pets over the last hundreds of years has changed their gut flora. So
it's a continuous thing, and it's in the health and fitness world too, that they're like, no, we need to eat this way because this is how we ate back in the days.
Caveman, right?
Yeah, or the monkey only eats grass, and so you should be vegan and this, and I'm like, you just compared us to an ape. All right, cool. I'm lost here. So a lot of the stuff, it throws me, but I do feel bad for the dog owner because I do feel dog owners will do whatever they can. They won't take their own medicine, which is an interesting thing. A dog owner person, if they're told by a doctor to take their medication, they won't do it as much as if they have dog medicine for their dog. They 100% give the dog anything, the food, whatever the food he wants, doesn't matter. Spend the money. And so I feel bad because, and I'm one of those dog owners, whatever I'm told to do, I will 100% do it at the very highest level.
Right. It's so true. People, I hear it all the time. What I get a kick out of is someone comes in for some kind of treatment, and they're out there and they're signing their credit card slip. And as they're signing their slip, they say, God, they look down at Bowser. They go, Bowser, I spent more on you than I did my kids.
That's a common thing. That's not just. I think it's. I love that, and I love that about us dog owners and stuff that we take care of. But please don't get stuck into the that scenario. We're gonna leave it there, guys. Appreciate you so much for doing this. Also, we're gonna put this video up. We're also gonna add the videos of Mason.
You gotta see Mason, guys.
You gotta see this story. Also, go over and follow Dr. Jeff Warber. Again, he's verified over there on Instagram. You can find him through my page as well.
Werb's my nickname for life, _DV.
And it just got the handsome face there looking like, like the man he is.
Hardly.
But yeah, we're going to get that video up here, get this video up. Also, we do have another video of Dr. Jeff Warber talking about some really important things that we discussed last time.
Yeah.
And that is going up on my YouTube today. So make sure to come on back and watch that. Different questions, different answers for other things that I think are very important for you guys. All right?
Great.
Good?
I'm good. And love to answer questions. So if you have, honestly, my radio show Sunday mornings.
Sunday mornings, this man goes live
9 a.m. It's Pet Life Radio, and I do an Instagram live feed also. So if you follow me on Instagram, you'll get an alert. And I love to answer questions. I love to help you with your pets. The advice is free. can't beat free. And anyway, take care. Bye.
Thank you, doctor.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Tate.
So
So
all
go
right.
on over there, Mary. You guys make sure to jump over there. Ryan, also, I recommend following and jumping into that podcast that he does on Sunday mornings, 9 o'clock. So I know you're over in England, so that's around 5 o'clock, I
Yeah.
think.
6 hours.
All right, guys, take care.
Happy New Year, everybody.
Yeah, I won't see you guys until
Next
I'll
year.
see you guys next. I'll see you tomorrow, probably.
Yeah.
Later.
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 Later.